Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. I am Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Saravati, who is affectionately known as Coach. And we're coming off a good night in the NBA. Coach, you did most of the work. We gave out 4 lineups on FanDuel, 3 of them cashed. Your clipboard on Draftkings was solid. And tonight we have a 9-game slate, and we're going to build a 2 brains are better than 1 FanDuel GPP lineup right here on the show.
That's right. It was a fun night, and I can't forget Yahoo, even though I think it's
That's
just
right.
Leonidas and I that play it. We had a solid night as well, so it was pretty darn good to see Vuk bust out, and Grant was tremendous for Detroit. He looked really good tonight. Good to get back on the winning track. Missed you yesterday. I was because I wasn't thrilled with my weekend performance. I went with no hat yesterday, so I scared some of the viewers with my bald headed shine there. But it got us. I am back on my horse here and ready to go, and glad you're back in the saddle because, like you said, no time to waste today. 9 super games, and then we got our 2 brains GPP FanDuel lineup to put together. So let's get it.
All right, let's do it. Game number 1 here out of this 9-game slate. We have 4 teams out of 18 involved in a back-to-back. So a nice low ratio there. Lots of island games. We have 3 totals over 230. They are games 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to have a lot of exposure here to these early ones. So let's start with Toronto at the Wizards. 7 o'clock tip. This is a 233 total. Toronto favored by 5.5. They're on the front end of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
And the news for Toronto is that Lowry is back in, OG Anunoby questionable, and Watanabe questionable. So in this higher total game, we have some significant exposure.
You know, it's going to be it's going to take a little while to get through these first 3 games because we just have 3 phenomenal totals, and probably a good portion of my roster is going to come out of these first 3 games. So I'm just going to, if we're behind schedule after 3, then we're okay because we're going to catch up later. So Anunoby's the only guy that's questionable for Toronto, and roster him, but he's such a tremendous defender. He causes so much trouble for the other team. So I do want to see what that news is because I think it affects the whole scheme defensively for Toronto. Westbrook, or for the Washington side. So this is a great game. The total's high. You've got Toronto, the 16th worst defense, so they're still not quite over the hump there. We know Washington's terrible. They're second. Gotta love it. Toronto 11 and Washington 1. So lots of pace, bad defense. Looks like all the studs are playing. So the question is, how many is too many from this game? You certainly can look at Westbrook for one, both. And then on the other side, you've got 3 choices that are super quality, but are expensive in Lowry, VanVleet, and Siakam. So you got 5 big money guys, and you can't unload the wagons. Who are you going to favor? And again, I want to see some of that Anunoby news to affect, that will affect some of the defense here. I sort of like Beal better than Westbrook here, and I think Lowry is going to guard Westbrook, and VanVleet will guard Beal, or unless Anunoby comes in and he gets some of those Beal minutes. So I that's the way I lean on that side of the ball. And then the side, I think, Westbrook is not a good defender this year. I think it's because he doesn't care. But last year, when he was alongside Harden, he was a damn good defender. He was really holding his own. Now he's I have a tendency to, it's either Lowry, VanVleet, one or the other, and it's very hard to pick between them. But I lean more towards Lowry here. I think that he's just got a little bit better upside. He's fresh. He's back in there. They need their plus. There was some scuttlebutt behind the scenes. I don't know if you heard it, Andrew, but there was some talk about Lowry possibly being traded at the deadline,
right?
And finish. Yeah. So that seems hard to believe, but it makes sense, I guess. So we'll see how that goes. So he's going to want to play well between now and the All-Star game to really prove himself. So I like that spot. I Siakam's probably third in the group, though, if I'm ranking those three on the he's in a good spot as well. He just hasn't been consistent enough. And the last guy I'll mention is I went back on the Boucher bandwagon last game, and it really paid off. His price was super high, then it was super low. Now it's evening back out. Experimenting playing him much. I don't know what it was about, if it was disciplinary or whatever. They didn't say anything, but he seems to be back heavily in the rotation. And this kind of matchup where Washington just doesn't have what I would consider a good center Len, and they played Hashimura a little there. They put Wagner in there a little bit. I mean, they're just mixing it up with Lopez, and none of them are really getting it done. So I think this is a phenomenal game to start the slate. I'm going to very game two salary guys and one value play from either one side or the other. So, right out of the gate, I think I'll know how my card's looking for the night. No doubt about it. How about you?
Yeah, this game has a lot of potential for the reasons you mentioned. My two concerns are blowout here because the Wizards are just they're reeling. And then with Toronto being the front end of a back-to-back, does that affect their minutes at all? I know that, Coach Nurse runs these guys big minutes all the time, so it's less of a concern than other teams in this spot. But you put those two together, and I'm a little less likely to spend big here. I like game two and game three a little bit more that we're going to talk about here. But I am also on Lowry the most for Toronto, and I like his low price tag here, 7,300 on DraftKings. Really strong GPP option, I think, because of that bad Wizards defense and because he's got that, recent injury history. So he's been a little bit banged up. So GPP option there for me. Everyone else is playable for Toronto because of this great matchup, but feels more GPP. Because I'm a little bit concerned about this the game script. On the Wizards side, I like Westbrook's price on DraftKings. He's only 8,400. Huge discount there for him. It is a tough matchup, so again, I'm not making him a key play tonight. Your boy Hachimura stepped up here and got big minutes, good production recently. Yeah. He's a nice price. He's playable. That's a way to get some exposure to this game.
No doubt. I really don't think this game blows out. I think Toronto hasn't really blown out many people, and they need a lot of win because they know this is a winnable game. They should win this game, but only 5.5-point spread. Nurse plays his guys a lot of minutes. I think this is an exposure game for cash, not just GPP. But we'll see how it rolls.
All right, game two. Another good option. We've got Atlanta visiting your Mavericks right there in Dallas. 232 total. Dallas favored by 3.5. These teams played recently. Dallas won a close, high-scoring game, 122-116. Tonight, we're going to have DeAndre Hunter still out, and Rondo is going to be out for the Hawks. This one, the reason I like this one a little bit more is because it is an island game for these teams. And I like the matchup here. Dallas has really been involved in some shootouts lately. They're scoring some points, but they are giving up some points. And that
let's just say they suck on defense lately. That's the best way to put it. Period.
They do. And now for the season, they're 27th in that department. Atlanta has been better this year. They're 11th, but solid pace here, solid offensive efficiency with Luka and Trey running the show. So on the Atlanta side, uh, if you look at that last matchup, that was again that ceiling game for Herder that I'd been waiting for, where he got the double-double with 10 assists, and he's reasonable price again. So I like him on both sites, especially on FanDuel where he's only 5,000. And Collins was tremendous against that the Dallas front court that we've been targeting. Capella didn't do quite as much, and Collins once again cheaper, so he's in play for me here. Guy off the bench I want to mention for Atlanta is Gallinari, who's now getting about 20 minutes a game. He's being relied upon to come off the bench and score, and he's only 3,800 on FanDuel, so he's in play for me there.
Yeah.
On the Dallas side, Luka and Porzingis both in play for me. If you want to go with a game stack, you can get them both in there and hope that this one stays close. And I think there's a good chance of that. With the peripheral guys for Dallas, decent price tags. So I could go with a one-off. Josh Richardson's an option. Brunson's been playing really well off the bench. He's still right around 4,000. So I should probably get 2 or 3 pieces from this game in most of my lineups.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Like you said, Atlanta's playing decent defense. I'll give them that. Dallas, Dirk, cover your ears, Mr. Dirk. But I looked up the last 10 games for Dallas statistically. I just wanted to do a statistical dive and just trying to figure out their rotation and how that's all looking. And in the last 10 games, this is the worst defense that they've played in the history of the Dallas Mavericks, which started back in 1980. I was in the arena with my good old dad, rest your soul, Dad. But that says something. So it's not only the worst in Carlisle's tenure, but it's epic. I mean, they are literally tied with Brooklyn in the last 10 games poorly on their defensive efficiency number. So that's got to get your attention and make you want to put some Atlanta guys in there. And, Dallas is favored by 4 in this game. So, it should stay somewhat close. And I don't know how you avoid Trae Young, certainly in play here. I think that Capella, who can slice and dice that inside with 1 million rebounds, although Kleber's back to guard him, so that helps a little bit. But I think Capella's well in play. With who's their power forward? I hate him so much I blocked him out. Atlanta's
Collins.
John Collins is certainly dangerous here too, because I think Cleveland was Capella, and I'm not sure which one yet. I'm going to keep trying to check that out because I'd like to take the one that he's not guarding, because I think he'll have that open approach to the hoop. I think you'll see Atlanta spread it out a little bit, and I think Capella may lose minutes because of that. So beware of that, because Dallas, where they're getting beat is when teams, and that was exposed really with Golden State, when teams are really spreading it out, they can't cover the backdoor cuts and it's just they haven't figured that out yet, or don't have the personnel to do it. So I think they may go small to put Collins at center and spread the floor so that everybody can shoot a 3, and Dallas is going to have trouble. So I'm a little hesitant Capella for that, but only if Kleber's guarding Capella, then Collins is going to be a lock for me. On the Dallas side, it crushes Atlanta not having Hunter. He's been out for a while now. And, that's who they would use on Luka, and a whole different situation. Now, without him there, they're sort of behind the 8 ball. I think they'll run some more doubles maybe at Luka, try to get the ball out of his hands, which could open it up for Porzingis. He's, again, hard to trust after some of the crappy games he put on last time. So, how far I can spend up in this game is going to be a tough call. I don't know if I'll be able to go Luka or Trey, although I'd love to. But I may go secondary ones and Porzingis that are still expensive, but they're not at the top of the chart. But I don't see how you don't have exposure here when this could be the highest scoring game on the slate.
Absolutely. By the way, I really liked that the floor that Dallas put out there, that old logo, the old school
Yeah, yeah.
in that last game. Speaking of the 80s, and
That's
although,
the original. That's
yeah,
not the original floor, but that's the design. It was the green paint with the cowboy hat. That was it, 1980.
I
That
love it.
Reunion Arena, man, that's exactly the same. So
It,
cool.
the problem is if they get in that 80s defense mode that you were talking about, they may need to change it to avoid that.
Yeah, back in the days where they were winning like 9 games a season and they couldn't stop anybody. It's skipping, so we'll see.
All right, game three is the other 230 total. It's 235 as Indiana gets to play Brooklyn and their 25th ranked defense. Brooklyn, the 2-point favorite here. Indiana on the front end of a back to back. They're going to play at Detroit tomorrow. Brooklyn coming off a loss last night in Detroit. Shane's guys got it done against the
Yes.
Nets. So with Durant out again, will you invest in this high total game?
Rinse and repeat these three first games, because I mean, how do you avoid all these games? They're all three perfect. I mean, compared to the remaining six on the board, it's not even close. These are the three games you got to play. So again, you have to have exposure, but I mean, every time one of the big three sits, like Durant is sitting again, you've got an opportunity with Kyrie and with Harden. I mean, it's that simple, but the cost is so expensive. So, you can look there. If that's going to be your pay up spot, you got to pick it carefully. The secondary guys for Brooklyn, it's starting to become difficult because of all the rotations. They brought some new people in. I think they're going to get some playing time now. Was fairly safe, or you could count on DeAndre or Green, but now I'm saying, I don't feel as comfortable with the secondary guys because of the large rotation here. And Indiana is 14th defensively, so that's 27th. You got to love the pace though. 13th and 6th, so they're going to get up and down the floor. I would love to pay up for Harden or Irving here. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but I do want some exposed. I think it can be more so from the Indiana side. I mean, let's face it, if you look at the optimal lineups the last 2 weeks, several of them had stacks against Brooklyn. The one had 3 guys, the one had 4 guys. And it does in baseball and football, but in basketball, usually you get the top 2 guys from somewhere, you're good. But to have 3 or 4 guys from the same team against a team that's the optimal lineup, and Brooklyn's allowing that. Durant's a terrific defender. That's the thing people don't realize. His length and his shot block. To take him out and leave the other 2 in that are horrible defenders, and Kyrie and Harden, it opens up this may be the game I have multiple players from. Not going to do 3, but I have to choose the 2 out of 3. I think you're going to agree with me on this one, but I think Brogdon is terrific. I think that Jeremy Lamb is terrific. I love Sabonis. And if I can't afford one of those, maybe a Justin Holiday, because he's getting a ton of minutes. He is a possibility. Turner's a little higher than I'd like, but all 5 of those are in the discussion. Here with at least 2 Pacers, and then see how everything else falls into place. But awesome game, man.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'd like to have a couple Pacers. Brogdon is a buy low candidate here. His minutes have been a little bit inconsistent. There was that dud against New Orleans when he sat the whole fourth quarter, and McConnell was out there, and he hasn't been shooting as well from three-point land, but this is the perfect spot for him to get back on track, and his price is very low. So I like Brogdon a lot tonight. Lamb also in the mix here. Hopefully he'll get some bad defense from Harden and company on the wing. And Sabonis is a nice price, especially on DraftKings. And then I agree, I don't really want to pay up for Turner in this game. And then an option off the bench is Doug McDermott, especially on FanDuel where he's 4,500. So I agree. I'd like to get a couple Pacers and Brooklyn. Just not as excited about here. This could be the game where Harden gets a little bit more usage if they're going to continue that pattern, like you mentioned early on, as Kyrie took more shots last night against Detroit. So maybe Harden gets a little bump here, but he's much more expensive. So I'm not very likely to go to him here on this slate.
Sounds good.
All right, game 4. We've got Charlotte, Memphis. We come back down to earth here with a 224 total. Memphis favored by 4 at home. Big news here. We've got Devontae Graham still out for Charlotte. And then on the Memphis side, we have Clark and Melton both out. Now, there's certainly some attraction here to LaMelo with Graham out again. He's really stepped up in that starting role. Big minutes, big production. Pretty pricey, though. Over 8,000 on both sites. I like a lot of guards on this slate who are more in the 7K range. So I'm unlikely to get up to LaMelo. Memphis is still solid defensively this year. They're 9th. With the rest of Charlotte, not too excited about anybody's price tag in what I think could be a lower scoring game. On the Memphis side, John Morant, he's one of those guys in that 7K range who's attractive to me. I think he can get it done. And one thing I really like for him is that the last game he played 37 minutes.
Wow.
And, this is a guy who's been dealing with different injuries in and out of the lineup, 28 minutes, 30 minutes. You see that so many times. And if they're going to let him go 36 or more, then I'm much more excited about playing him. Joe Val, man, he's got a new lease on life with being back in the lineup.
He came on with a storm. Holy cow.
Big game off the bench, and then he starts and he goes 27 and 20. And, I think he can get it done here against Zeller and company. Reasonable price tag for Joe Val. This is a guy who I don't like to play a lot because I think he's just too inconsistent. But he's in the groove right now. So, I could come out of here with Ja and or Joe Val at a decent price.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, I apologize if there's any delays today. For some reason, I don't know if it's this crazy cold weather or something is creating our internet between us here, Andrew, be a little choppy. So if that's the case, I do. Yes, I mean, Joe Val's hard not to look at here because of his price, and he just seems so refreshed. And now Clark's out, and so he's going to get a lot of those minutes inside against a team that he should be able to be decent about. He's come back, and in a couple games he's been back, he looks fantastic. So I think you absolutely have to consider him at a value price. 12th and 9th defensively after those first 3 games. Doesn't want to have much exposure here. And, pace-wise, they're both middle to slightly below, as far as pace goes. So, I think LaMelo is phenomenal. I just can't believe how well he's playing. But when you start, fishing in those $8,000 waters with the big boys, it makes you think a little bit. You got to look more towards matchups now. Before, it was a no-brainer with him when he was at a cheaper price. But I'm not going to go there today, but it's for LaMelo at your own risk because he's getting the big minutes. He's been phenomenal. So, but I'm not going to go there. The guy that I sort of like at a discount on the Charlotte side is Rozier. Look, if you really look from the very first game this year, he's playing great. He's hitting shots. He's really been good, and his price is fair. So really not a ton of exposure here for me. I think the game, stays within reason. And I think you can get here and with Joval really as the main two guys that I would look at.
All right, game 5, another 8 o'clock tip. We've got the Clippers at Minnesota. Big favorites, 10.5 points, 223 total. Paul George is still out for the Clippers, and Pat Beverly is questionable. And then on the Minnesota side, we have Cat still doubtful and D'Angelo Russell questionable. What do you have here?
Well, this is going to be one of those news games, which is very common anymore. We have seen we have to wait and see if they're, an injury situation, COVID protocols, all the stuff that's going on. And it has a lot to do when you game script these games out. And this is one of them. D'Angelo Russell in or out makes a huge difference. And after being questionable and was pulled with the injury aggravated and didn't come back. So I'm looking at Russell as far as my game scripting is not playing, but I could be dead wrong. He's been questionable, I believe, 3 games. He completed all 3 of those. So you got to have the news on this. In fact, let me just say, as far as the news goes, if you want to hammer NBA DFS right now, let's face it, you need to really follow the news. You need to see what's going on. And then after lock, between the games, you have to be aware and awake with it because there's going to be there's more pivoting and swapping this year than ever before, mainly because of the COVID cancellations and protocols. The best way to stay on for Andrew and I are both grinding at this NBA like 24/7. We're preparing these lineups. We're watching the news. The best place for you to get that information is dfscoachtalk.com. You can sign up with us there for as little as out. We also have a phenomenal offer for $199 with BetUS. You sign up for BetUS if you bet any sports, basketball, golf. You can bet them all. You go to betus.com.pa. First deposit, it has to be $99. You shoot us a tweet, say, I joined BetUS on the Coach Talk plan. Make sure that you use the promo code Coach Talk, all one word, no space, COACHTALK. And then we will give you a free 3-month membership, $225 value. So the next 90 days, you're with us. We got you covered on everything basketball with this news. Baseball start. I mean, you can't beat the deal. So we'd love to have you. So I wanted to mention it there because, we did have a couple members. One member said, I'm busy at work, so I'm putting my lineup in at lunchtime, and I don't get to adjust it before lock. In my opinion, if you're going to do that, just take the day off because you can't afford to lock lineups without the news to the end. And if I know a lot of, hey, I was stuck in traffic jams trying to get the information, 2-3 years ago, but let us do that work for you. Just, give us a try at dfscoachtalk.com and we'll have you prepared and we'll have those pivots and we'll. So, all right, this game again, if it turns out that Russell sits, I think you have to take a quick gander at Beasley or Edwards just because who's going to take the shots? Where's the usage going to come from? Nas deserves a quick look. So you can get some of those guys decently priced that will have some impact here. And then, on the Charlotte side, again, I like, on the Clippers side, what important news is going to be out or not? He's questionable. So if he plays, that shuffles the deck a little bit for the Clippers. But, this is one of the 3 games that has a monster spread. And here's the way I look at this. The first 3 games are there's 3 games that have double-digit spreads. The 3 huge favorites today are the Clippers, the Nuggets, and the Lakers. And you know what? I know you can't just count on blowouts, but man, those 3 games look like they could blow out. So even though there's some in all three of the games with the big spreads. I would not pay up. It's too risky, too much chance that they sit, they get rested, they don't play the fourth. So that's the reason I don't like a lot of guys here. I'm not going to pay up for Kawhi this time, even though George is out. Secondary guys you can take a chance at, like possibly a Kennard who's priced well. But for the most part, I'm not crazy about this game. 28th pace for the Clippers doesn't help matter. Wait for the Russell and Beverly news. You can find a 1 or 2 off of value.
Yeah, that Beverly news is going to be huge because if he sits again, I think you can look at Reggie Jackson as a GPP option, a cheaper point guard on this slate. And then you've got potential value with Kennard and even Mann. But I'm with you. I'm not going to pay up for Kawhi. One other Clipper to mention here is Zubats, who had a big double-double against Sacramento in 27 minutes, and I don't see anybody off the bench from Minnesota stopping him. So if he gets 24 minutes again, he could pay off value there, but only a low-owned GPP option there because he's a little bit pricier than I'd like, over 5,000. And on Minnesota, I agree. Beasley and Edwards should be taking a bunch of shots. A little concerned about the defensive matchups and who Kawhi is going to guard. So I am going to tread lightly with those guys and probably just move to the next game.
Let's do it.
All right. It's the Pelicans and Bulls, the first 9 o'clock tip to discuss here. 228.5 total. Pelicans favored by 3. So the next best total on the board here, as we've got the Bulls third in pace. We've got both teams in the 20s defensively in terms of efficiency. And Pelicans offense picking it up now. They're a top 10 offense. Bulls middle of the pack. So decent game scenario here. We do have the Pelicans on a back-to-back. They blew out Houston last night, 130 to 101. So their guys didn't play many minutes. So Zion played 21 minutes, and he's a guy that I don't usually look at on back-to-backs because they're so conservative with him. But I think he can handle 21 minutes and then getting back out there here against the Bulls and their bad defense. So he's playable for me. Ingram, a little bit pricey but playable. Lonzo, he's the one with this matchup against the bad Bulls backcourt defensively. He's certainly playable. Man, how about Josh Hart? 40 minutes last night. Got 17 rebounds.
And wasn't he on the list as even like questionable? I thought he was dinged up. I'm like, what in the heck happened? That was such an outlier, though. That if anybody they have to take a 5-point penalty to start just for chasing his number.
Phenomenal, though. The way that he attacks rebounds, it is impressive. So that's an important thing to keep an eye on. The value play that you could look at for the Pelicans in a back-to-back is Hernan Gomez. I like how he's been trending here. He had a big double-double off the bench last night. He's still in the 3K range on both sites. And, this is the type of thing you look for if you're looking at a back-to-back and split minutes, is a center coming off the bench. And I'm not worried about anybody on the Bulls bench either defensively for bigs. You've got Thaddeus Young out there, but he's a little bit undersized. So I think Hernan Gomez can pay off his value. Over on the Bulls side, Levine is the guy to look at. He is over 9,000. So challenging to pay up for him here. He's probably not going to make my first lineup. And, Patrick Williams has been getting more run here with Markkanen out. I don't really trust him in general, but 4,400 on FanDuel, I think you could consider. But I'm just a little bit concerned about his inexperience, his inconsistency. But he's playable, I think, at that price. I don't love it. But interesting game here with a back-to-back for Pelicans. What do you think?
I think that this game is going to get a decent amount of ownership when there's so many good games. And this is the game that I'm just going to not watch and just hope and hold my breath that the score stays low, because I'm afraid of this game. I think it could be a decent. I'll go to Levine. I just don't have the salary to go up to him. I think that Zion, his points per minute DFS right now are fantastic. I just don't have the courage to pull the trigger. He could smash. I'm not saying he couldn't. I know he didn't play a ton of minutes, but just think about last year. I mean, there wasn't even a tenth of a chance that he even play in a doubleheader, let alone play a bunch of minutes. So I don't really want to go there. Ingram's a little, certainly not going to chase the heart points or some of the other crazy plays. Now Hernan Gomez is tempting because he could let you buy up to another star, but slate. So for a cash player, there are probably 3-4 guys in this game I wouldn't mind going to, even Thad Young, Patrick Williams. But I'm pretty much going to fade this game just because the back-to-backs and there have more people contributing than they did before, even though they're shorthanded. So crossing my fingers and moving to the next one and hoping it doesn't sting me.
All right. Well, the next one is Cleveland in Denver. The other 9 o'clock tip, 219 total. Denver, the big favorite here. No big surprise. 9.5 points. And with the news here, we've got Dozier out for the Nuggets. Campazzo probable. So what about this one, Coach? Is this a blowout that you're going to try to avoid?
It's been amazing staying in games. Have you noticed that? I mean, they just don't often get blown out. I know they got crushed the one game, but it doesn't seem to matter who they play. They hang in there, and it's pretty odd. But man, this is a hard one. Is one of those letdown games where they're not going to take it too seriously. They're coming off all these big important matchups, and they beat Utah and all this stuff, and now they got to face Cleveland at home. That's a little scary if there's a letdown and it's an important one, but they're 26th and 27th in pace, Andrew. So how can you get excited about that? Last thing you want to do when you have DFS guys is you watch each team walk the ball up and everything. It just drives you. And, the double digit and number and then the low total, I wouldn't spend up for any of the big dogs here, like even a Sexton or Murray or you can look at some of the secondary guys if you want to fill in a few spots. But, I could mention 4 or 5 of the guys that you could take a chance at. Now, I did pay up for Drummond the last time, and he was terrific. They played some zone, and they even played man with the big guys out there. So, I can't imagine Drummond doesn't get in foul trouble here, and I don't want to play that guessing game with Drummond Allen. I still think Drummond's on any night just because he has that upside of really dominating a game in the paint. But it doesn't feel right here. I don't like the matchup. I don't want to spend up really for anybody here, and I don't like any of the value to say, okay, I'm going to lock this guy in. So once again, if a one value guy fits, if not, this is going to be the 9 o'clock hour. I guess that's when I'll walk my dog because I'm not going to have action in those 2 games. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. So okay. I agree. I'm not going to pay up for Jokic here. Tough combination of defense and slow pace. Drummond, I think, is playable. He's got the upside, but I'd rather save a little bit of money and go to Valanciunas tonight, most likely. Allen, I think, is an interesting one here because he's back at a reasonable price. And I think if Drummond's going to be on Jokic and Allen gets to play the power forward for Denver. I'm blanking on his name. Millsap. Millsap.
Millsap.
If he's guarding Millsap, I think he's going to be able to cheat and be a little bit closer to the block and get some good amount of rebounds. So Allen is in play for me as a GPP option. Don't like anybody else on Cleveland. On the Denver side, I am interested in Murray in GPPs because he's only 7,000, so he's not in that group I was referencing.
And it is Cleveland backcourt, don't forget.
It's Cleveland backcourt, and here's another. He was the other surprise with that questionable tag last time out. And then he comes out and plays 37 minutes, and he didn't play well. He shot 4 for 17, but Murray eventually is going to pay off his price tag when he's getting that much of an opportunity, that many shots. So I still don't trust him in cash, but I do like him as an option for GPPs. All right, let's move to 10 o'clock. 2 games left before our 2 brains are better than 1 lineup. And we're going to start with Milwaukee at Phoenix. Milwaukee 4.5 point favorites here, 226.5 total. For Milwaukee, we still have Drew Holiday out. And for Phoenix, we have Saric and Payne out. And then big question marks with Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, and Abdel Nader. Now, for me, we got to start with Milwaukee and this opportunity with Drew Holiday out. We saw Middleton just absolutely look phenomenal against Denver with the ball in his hands. Almost had a triple-double. He had 12 assists, 29 points. He was hitting turnaround, fallaways, awesome passes to Giannis. I mean, he was just phenomenal and still a good price. He's going to have a pretty decent defensive matchup here. In terms of it's going to be challenging with guys like Bridges on him. So I don't think this is a monster triple-double opportunity for Middleton, but 7,600 on FanDuel I still like, and I do prefer that to Giannis. And not the ideal game scenario here with 2 top 10 defenses and Phoenix with their 29th pace. So it's most likely Middleton or bust for me on Milwaukee. And then with Phoenix, if Chris Paul is out, then I think there's going to be a lot of interest in Booker, who was terrific last time with Chris Paul out. But I'm a little concerned about Milwaukee's defense here. And don't forget, we've got Torrey Craig now back in the rotation, playing big minutes. He's a guy that can shut down a wing player, even coming off the bench. He'll spend some time on Booker. So I don't think this is a lock and load for Booker if Chris Paul is out. I think I'm more likely to spend my money elsewhere.
Lock and load for me with Booker if Paul's out. No, I really, the thing is, statistically, you look at it, and it's, again, I get it, small sample size, but when Paul's off the floor, was up by 10 points. You don't see double digits of a difference with somebody off the floor. And, we saw that all last year when Booker had the ball in his hands. He just creates so much, including his own shot a lot. But I just love the way he plays, when Paul's off the floor. And if he sits, then I am going to be one of those guys that goes on more of a chalky Booker in that scenario. I just think it's too good of a spot. But after that, and 5th rated defense in the league. So you got to respect that. And then if Phoenix has their way, they're not going to let LeBron, get out and run. They're not going to let these guys transition. They're the 2nd slowest team in the league. So even if Paul is out, they're going to slow it down, control pace, and try to take advantage of the game that way. Now, if Paul does play, this game will be a complete fade for me because he's such a maestro out there at point. And the game will be, let's, reduce the amount of possessions. The less Giannis has an opportunity or Middleton has an opportunity, if we cut that, by 8 or 10 possessions, that's going to give us a much better chance to win this game. And only 4, so they have a chance. But I think in that vein, it'll keep the score down somewhat. So this isn't, for me, a great place to go. But again, I just think the book with that Big Ten point is too good. Couple of the other guys may counteract each other, like you said. Perfect, choice there of Bridges versus Middleton. They both sort of, play great D and are rangy, and they could hold. If you want to spend up, on a slate like this where there's so many good guys, you can. But I don't know if I would against the 5th-rated defense and the 29th pace team in Phoenix. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But Giannis nature makes a lot of sense. So I'm not going to go there, but I wouldn't shame anybody that did. So, not a lot of exposure here, mainly a Booker deal if Paul sits, but I just respect the defenses too much. The over-under, Vegas respects the score. I thought it'd be more like 222, 223, and it's hovered right around 226, 227. So there are points to be had here. If you can find the right plug-in guy, you can really get some value and score something here. But I just there deep of a slate.
All right. The other 10 o'clock game, Oklahoma City against the Lakers, the rematch from the other night that went to overtime. Total tonight, 218.5. Lakers favored by 11. We've got Anthony Davis questionable to play. He didn't play in that last one. Same thing with Caruso. And then on the OKC side, they've had a lot of moving parts. The guys who are going to be out tonight, Maladon again, Muscala again, George Hill, of course. Shea's going to sit this one out. We have Roby back into the mix. What are your thoughts on the last game of the night, Coach?
Keeping track of the Thunder's situation, I mean, you need just to have nothing but follow Thunder basketball, because the guys in and out and protocols and hurt drives you nuts. We had poor Muscala the other day. We had him, and he was just smashing. He was like 7x at halftime, and I tout him. I posted a giant picture of a moose in our Discord. Not 5 minutes later, he catches an elbow, like a MMA, elbow, and the dude was like, "What state am I in?" So he's on concussion protocol. But yeah, Shea being out, it just terrifies me that Oklahoma City is going to get blown out. But I'll tell you, if there's any like that and anybody else, it's the Thunder. Every time I'm thinking they're going to get blown out, they either are down to the wire or win the damn game. So I don't know. I mean, he's coaching his tail off there. They stay in a lot of games, and it's scary. There's a 11.5 spread. Lakers, I know Davis is questionable. He really doesn't need to play, I don't think, because I think they'll hammer him. But it's in LA, so shorthanded. Maladon being out, Muscala, they just have no bench. It just smells like a beating to me. Now, with that small of a rotation, there's a lot of people that argue, hey, they got to play the minutes because there's not that many guys that are, going to be able to rotate. So I get these guys has gone up. A guy I've been high on all year is Baisley. He's such an athletic machine. When he gets a control of what he's doing, he's going to be like a mini Giannis kind of guy, because he can just fly through the air and get rebounds, dunks everywhere. But he's still a little raw, but he gets DFS points. So you got to consider him if you're going to roster an OKC guy, in my opinion. After that, it's just becomes difficult. Diallo's going to be very, because whenever SGA's out, he usually goes crazy. So I get that. Those two guys are very, very playable. I don't think you have to count out Dort, but he's going to get the assignment on LeBron to just be up in his jock. So I don't know how much he'll have left on the offensive side. And then, Lakers, you just got a lot of higher price guys in a very possible blowout here. I don't think LeBron is playable in that scenario, in my own opinion, but I know if AD does, I'll probably be lower owned than he usually is because of the possible blowout. You can go to the secondary guys if you really want a game script and expect some of the secondary guys like the Kuzmas to get a bunch of extra minutes possible. I'm just not crazy about this game. Lakers are the number one defensive team in the league, and Thunder are 19th. They're 9th and 19th in pace. So, you could make an argument either way, but I have so much exposure. I don't really want to take spots up in this game, not knowing exactly how it's going to play out. But I can almost guarantee you that I'll have the one value guy from Oklahoma City or two, just because they're younger. I think they'll get more minutes even in a low. That's what I'm thinking on this last one. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm interested in OKC because on the Lakers side, with AD back, assuming he plays, the trickle-down effect of his minutes is monstrous. It interferes with LeBron. It interferes with Schroeder, who was good last time. And then on the bench, it takes away a little bit from Harrell. And even a guy like Horton Tucker, who I would play with if Caruso is out again, he's in the mix, but he gets a little bit of a hit too. So it almost makes the Lakers unplayable for me. And so I will focus more on Oklahoma City. I like Diallo here. He'll be chalky, but I think he's worth playing. And then with the bigs, Roby's back in the mix, so he will take away a little bit, I think, from Baisley. And then again, AD on the other side is going to make life much tougher for Baisley and a little bit Horford in terms of Horford as well. So
yeah, that's if AD plays. So you have him in right now?
I've got him in and really affecting this game on both sides. If he sits, then I take that all back. Harrell is still in play, Horton Tucker is still in play if Caruso is out, and you could look at one of the bigs for OKC. But I'm not ready to trust Baisley yet, even though he looked phenomenal in the last game. That's my thoughts over there. It's Diallo mostly for me, and then pass.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, let's fire up our two brains are better than one GPP lineup on FanDuel. We invite you to play this one with us. We're going to let Coach make the first pick. And again, just keep in mind, as always, there are often pivots we have to make in this lineup because of news. So follow us on Twitter. You can find us at DFS Coach Talk. That's where we'll update the lineup before lock if there are changes. While you're there, you can follow Coach at JOESARVADI. I am at Language Olympic, and Shane is at DET Sports Shane. You'll see him on the NBA podcast tomorrow. So, Coach, make the first selection for us.
Yeah, that's right. I actually have a day off tomorrow. First one since Christmas, I think. So rolling in there. Don't let them take all Pistons. All right, my first pick in the 2021 draft is the one and only. Are you ready for this?
I don't think I am, but go ahead.
Pick Kyle Lowry.
Okay.
At 7,600.
All righty. Interesting.
Yeah, Kyle I just Lowry. Like the matchup.
All right. Let me lock in a shooting guard that I like. It's Mr. Herder. Perfect GPP option here in this game, $5,000.
All right. Stomachache number one for Coach, but that's okay. I'm going to go right to the big man spot. 7 feet out of Jonas Valanciunas.
You got Valanciunas? Okay.
Where is he from, though? I'm drawing a blank.
Gosh, I can't remember.
Man, our international. I'm going to get. They always holler at me when I don't know where these guys play. Remember, we had the whole thing with the Russian basketball team, or it wasn't Russian. It was Serbian. That's it, Serbia, I think.
Okay. All right, let's see here. Another guy I like with Jrue Holiday out is Chris Middleton. So I'm going to get him in here at 7,600 as a small forward.
Interesting pick. Very interesting pick there. Okay, that shifts my selection. We need a little value somewhere, Andrew. Wow. I really would like to go with this guy, but I don't think you're going to agree with me. All right, I am going to make a pick here that may be controversial to you.
All right.
I want to go with Chris Boucher. He's only $6,000. That's
Okay.
I mean, are you okay with that one?
I can live with that.
Okay.
Going against Washington. Yeah. It's a good way to get a little bit more exposure to that game.
Yeah, a little two-man stack there.
Let me get the other power forward I like the most,
Okay.
and it's John Collins at 7,000. I think that's too cheap for him in a great game environment.
All right, Mr. Big Bucks. Let's see here. We're down to 65-33. That's not bad. We can make forward, shooting guard, point guard. You know, I think this is a great pick. I'm just going to take him. Malcolm Brogdon, 7,200.
Yeah, I like it. Yep. He's the
Need
other guy.
exposure to that Brooklyn game. Do you like him? Good.
Yeah, he's the other guy I had penciled in here. And
Excellent.
the remaining two spots are bigger question marks for me.
6,200. You can go up or down price wise.
Let's
This is
see.
a big pick.
If I
This
go,
is the key that will
this is it. A lot riding on this one.
roster.
Let's see. If we go with Jeremy Lamb, 5,600 as a shooting guard.
You know, I'm a big Jeremy Lamb fan.
That gives us two Indiana guys. What does that leave for you at small forward? Anything? Gives you 6,800.
And there's 6,800 at small forward.
Nobody in that price range.
Oh, rats. Yeah. That makes it a little tough. We may have to tweak that a little bit. Let me see if you
Is there a guy that you like to
buy up?
If we pay down at small forward, is there anyone you like down there where we could pay up at shooting guard and pivot off of Lamb?
Let's see. As far as super cheap, it's just GPP-ish. I mean, the guy that I sort of like is Hashimura at 5,300, just to have a little bit of, you know, we have two Toronto guys, be a little bit of, what do you think of that pick?
Let's see what that gives us.
Shooting guard
53
gives you 7,100 at shooting guard.
Let's see, 71.
It gives us right in that.
Nobody in that range either. We don't love Sexton here.
Can we go up to Booker if I cut the price somewhere else?
I guess if we instead of Hachimura.
If we take him and if we got Hachimura out, is there any $4,700 small forwards? You're the value master.
Well, you know what we could do?
Yeah.
We could go to one of your favorite players, Doug McDermott, at 45.
Yeah. Since when is he one of my favorite players?
I know, I'm kidding. But you know, he's one of the guys who, I mean, he's the scorer off the bench. Yeah. And that gives us one starter against Brooklyn with Brogdon and one guy off the bench, which is a nice way to balance it out.
I mean, if you don't have two players against me, probably. So I like that pick a lot. So that gives us Lowry and Brogdon, powerful point guards, Herder and Booker, Middleton and McDermott, Boucher, John Collins, and Joval. I think that's a wonderful lineup.
Excellent.
Takedown.
Well, hopefully it will. So
for all GPP tournaments tonight, it's this lineup right here.
All right. Well, that was fun. I hope you all enjoyed it. Do join us as a member. Get our other full lineups on FanDuel tonight, 2 cash lineups, and then our DraftKings coaches clipboard. We're also providing a lineup every night for the Shootout series on FanDuel. 10-day tournament, a lot of fun with extra prizes, and we're providing that right in our main chat as well as an additional opportunity. So jump in with us, dfscoachtalk.com, get whatever length of membership you'd like, and then we'll send you an email and get you into our Discord. We give out the lineups about 20 to 30 minutes before lock. So that'll do it for today. On behalf of the coach, I'm Andrew Hansen. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.